welcome back to another video of Mike's Geek Corner with your host, Mike Abello. This time I'm doing a review of the two-part first season of the Netflix animated series Masters of the Universe Revelation, which is produced and co-written by Kevin Smith. Warning for possible spoilers for part 1, possible mild spoilers for part 2, and possible spoilers for mentioned material like Green Arrow Quiver. First, let me say, because I know how passions for many fans exploded with displeasure at the first part of the season months ago, that as a child of the 80s, I wandered into Eternia weekdays after school, had VHS tapes rented and recorded, owned and played with several of the action figures, read the mini comics, the storybooks, even enjoyed the live action movie when I first saw it, still do, and after a whole decade passed, got my interest in He-Man rekindled when the 2002 animated series reboot aired. This Netflix series is one I've been very hyped for since it was announced back in the summer of 2019. And in a nutshell, let me say, Kevin Smith and company delivered the goods that I was expecting. I feel like the series honored the various facets of the franchise, from the aforementioned stuff like the Filmation animated show, the mini-comics, Secret of the Sword, the 87 live-action movie, the 2002 animated reboot, and the DC Comics run. It's an epic saga very much worthy of comparison with Netflix's other animated fantasy, Blood of Zeus. I will say that it might have been a much better idea to have released the whole season back in July. That way this whole ruckus might have been avoided. Still, part 2 has proven that Kevin Smith did indeed do his homework. I don't think I've ever seen a Kevin Smith movie in its entirety. Mallrats might be the closest one I think I might have. Comedy just happens to be a genre that is trickier to pull me in. When I think of Kevin Smith, I think of some pretty nifty comic books like Daredevil, Guardian Devil, Green Arrow Quiver, Dynamite's Green Hornet, and the Batman 66 Green Hornet crossover. Adding that the animation house behind Castlevania, Powerhouse, was going to be involved, as well as comic book artist Eddie Nunez, not to mention that it was going to be a loose follow-up to the 80s Filmation cartoon, just whetted my appetite further. The first 5-episode installment sees Skeletor and Evil-Lyn launching a strike against Castle Grayskull, as Teela is about to be handed the title of Man-at-Arms from his father Duncan in Eternos. After Prince Adam turns into He-Man, and, along with Eternia's army to counter Skeletor and his forces, He-Man, driven by rage by the death of Mossman at the magic of Skeletor, impales the Lord of Snake Mountain before Castle Grayskull is revealed to be the Hall of Wisdom in disguise. When Skeletor unleashes from an orb all the magic in Eternia, causing an explosion that puts all existence in peril, He-Man, using the opportunity of the sorcerer's slowing of time, sacrifices himself by neutralizing the explosion through the process of splitting the Sword of Power in two, seemingly killing Skeletor as well. Teela, heartbroken after finding out Adam and He-Man were one and the same and that she was never trusted with being told the truth, leaves Eternos and her duty in the Royal Guard and becomes a mercenary, along with new partner Andra. After achieving an endeavor involving a retrieval of the Globe of Gubla from Stinkor, and then acquiring an old goblet from Snake Mountain, which is now under the rule of Tri-Klops, who commands a tech-worshipping cult via the Master Motherboard, doing away with magic unlike Skeletor, the Hirer, an old woman, reveals herself as Evil-Lyn in disguise, as well as revealing that the goblet is in fact the head of Skeletor's Havoc staff in disguise, one of the few remaining remnants of magic, and how she and a weakened sorceress are in alliance in order to bring magic back to Eternia so the land can live again. In order to achieve this, the sorceress asks Teela to help retrieve the two halves of the Sword of Power from the realms of Saturnia and Preternia. Teela begrudgingly agrees to the task, accompanied by Andra and Evil-Lyn, and along the way they recruit Duncan, Man-at-Arms, who had been banished by King Randor from Eternos after Randor learned the truth from the former that Adam was He-Man, along with the cyborg Roboto, a feebled Orko, and Beastman. After Man-at-Arms parts ways from the group to head for the Hall of Wisdom to protect the sorceress, the rest of the group reach Saturnia, with the unwitting help of Mer-Man. The realm's ruler, Scareglow, demands a taste of Teela's fear in exchange for his half of the Sword of Power, and after Teela conquers her fear by destroying Scareglow's illusions, Orko sacrifices himself to hold off a retaliating Scareglow, while the team uses the power of the half-sword to escape to Preternia. In Preternia, they are greeted by none other than Prince Adam, who after perishing in the final battle with Skeletor as He-Man, had been placed in the Hall of Heroes. After Orko is given a ceremonial burial, Roboto, with the help of Andra, set to forge the two halves of the Sword of Power after Hero hands him the second half of the blade, while Adam takes Teela to see King Grayskull, so to help Teela and the rest return to Eternia. Once a Sword of Power is restored at the cost of Roboto's life, Adam decides to return with Teela and the rest to Eternia, where an ambush by none other than Skeletor, who is restored after his essence hid in Evil-Lyn's staff, befalls the heroes as he sneaks behind Adam and impales him, before claiming the Sword of Power and uses it to transform into a godlike Master of the Universe. We then move to Part 2. As Skeletor is seemingly standing triumphant over the subdued Eternians, the Sorceress teleports Adam, Teela, Andra, and Cringer away from Grayskull, before the former Lord of Snake Mountain kills her, makes Evil-Lyn her successor, and makes Man-at-Arms a prisoner. Once at the Royal Palace, Teela discovers she possesses magical abilities which she uses to heal Adam's mortal wound. Our heroes discover from Fisto and Clamchamp that most of Eternal's inhabitants, including King Randor and Queen Marlena, have been evacuated from the city. After Skeletor chases his former captives to Eternals, he transforms the remaining citizens, including Fisto and Clamchamp, into skeletal slaves, whom the heroes have no choice but to vanquish. Before Skeletor can deal Adam another deadly fate, the Prince of Eternia calls upon the power of Grayskull without the sword and becomes the brutish and massively powerful Savage He-Man, and unleashes his fury on the new Master of the Universe. And after Skeletor's minions manage to subdue him, Teela is able to perform the same spell that the sorceress used to teleport her and her friends to the safety of the Mystic Mountains. However, their stay there ends as Savage He-Man is drawn to King Randor's camp. And once at the camp, the hulking Primitive attacks the Royal Guard, and as the army is attempting to keep Randor's son in a tasking bind, the king approaches his son as he apologizes for his misgivings as a father. But will the primal Juggernaut be transformed back to Adam in time before his father meets a brutal end as the soldiers reap on Savage He-Man's hold is weakening? Also, what will be the fate of Man-at-Arms as a captive of Skeletor's, whose power is on the verge of being challenged by none other than the new sorceress, Evil-Lyn? And will Teela embrace her destiny as the new sorceress? And if so, will she stand a chance against the current one? On one aspect, this feels like a Death of Superman, World Without Superman type story for He-Man, as it shows, aside from He-Man valiantly giving his life for others, those who were close to the hero display their grief and also picking up the pieces in Eternia after the climatic battle with Skeletor, the same way characters like Lois Lane, Supergirl, Guardian, Maggie Sawyer, and Dan Turpin do in Metropolis after Superman's deadly tangle with Doomsday. Smith also brings the same type of gravitas he had done for Daredevil and Green Arrow. There's the aspect of self-doubt showcased in Guardian Devil with Matt Murdock over his faith that is mirrored in Teela's broken spirit after secrets are revealed. And then there's a return from the afterlife by Oliver Queen and Quiver that is reworked with Prince Adam. More importantly is the way how informed the series is with the property's lore. Aside from the very clear presence of Filmation's aura, there's the original barbarian concept for He-Man that was presented in the mini-comics, the intro line from the 87 live-action movie, along with Frank Langella's godlike horned Skeletor. There's also trace from the DC Comics run from the late 2010s, where Prince Adam, in an attempt to regain the mantle of He-Man by finding his fellow Eternian peers, must do battle as himself with Skeletor's minions. Adam getting stabbed with the Sword of Power was previously seen in the He-Man Thundercats comic crossover by Mommer's Hands. The animation by Powerhouse is, as should be expected after having seen Castlevania and Blood of Zeus, astounding. It's got such a rich flair. Not only it might be superior to anything that I might recall seeing from DC's animated movies, but I think it would make any Kawajiri fan happy. The voice work is solid. Chris Wood is fine as He-Man and Prince Adam, bringing the apt Nivette. Sarah Michelle Gellar is very effective as Teela, as she emotes strength, vulnerability, and humor. Mark Hamill is at home as Skeletor. He just shoes the scenery. Lena Headey is brilliant as Evil-Lyn, so very not one-dimensional. Liam Cunningham as Man-at-Arms brings an assuring sage-like quality. Henry Rollins as Tri-Klops is a creative choice. Same with Kevin Conroy as Mer-Man. Griffin Newman as Orko adds much warmth. And very much everyone from Alicia Silverstone as Queen Marlena, Diedrich Bader as King Randor and Trapjaw, Justin Long as Roboto, Susan Eisenberg as a Sorceress, Alan Oppenheimer as Mossman, Dennis Haysbert as King Grayskull, Kevin Michael Richardson as Beastman, Jason Mewes as Stinkor, Danny Trejo as Ram-Man, and Tony Todd as Scarecrow are all effective. Setbacks? Maybe Stratos and Boss-Up not appearing enough, nor having any other of my favorite characters like Sodak or Manny Faces, but of course there's always the next season for that, which by the way, the season's ending tease is very satisfying. So I'm very pleased with the show so far. Those of you who are not, that can be understandable. He-Man is a pretty particular property, as it holds a special nostalgia for a lot of people, of which I'm part of, and most of the content in my channel is solid proof of how nostalgic I am. By the way, be on the lookout for my review of Black Star. But Ishmine is a different world, and as we find ourselves in these complex times, to probably put it diplomatically, it's possible many people want to look in entertainment for something that takes them back to a simpler era. And Masters of the Universe Revelation maybe didn't present to some the type of escapism that might have provided them levity to get away from this culture war, or whatever it's being called. I guess maybe the factor here really is timing. I wonder if this show had been made around, the late 2000s or early 2010s, would the divisiveness be the same? My 2 cents. Look, stuff like Legends of Tomorrow, the seasons 2 of Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, I totally sense the forced narrative, the agenda. It's irritating. But I'm very happy I found nothing of the sort, or at least anything that reminded me of that, here in Masters of the Universe Revelation. I found it to be true to the spirit of the best of the previous iterations of Masters, while also adding more layers to the characters. So it's Masters of the Universe being handled with the type of dynamic seen in Blood of Zeus, pushing the stakes to unexpected levels. Here's hoping Season 2 will be as engaging. So that's it for this review. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, please give it a like. Please make sure you subscribe, and feel free to leave your comments below. And by the power of Grayskull, good journey.